Hi folks, Matthew Lanigan here with BayWa RE. We're just going to give it a minute. I see people signing in. We'll be back with you in just about 2 minutes to start. Thanks so much. Hi folks, Matthew Lanigan here again with BayWa RE. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer here at BayWa. Really appreciate you all taking time to be with us. A couple of quick things before we get going. Just to let you all know, this will be recorded. It will go into the newsletter, the monthly newsletter, which you'll see probably Tuesday next week. It'll also go on to our YouTube page. If you haven't signed up to our YouTube page, we'd really appreciate that you did. You can see this webinar as well as all past webinars that we've done as well. We will be taking questions. You'll see a questions box in the bottom right corner. We will answer those at the end, but please get them in, and we definitely will answer any questions that folks have. Continuing education is a big part of our culture here at BayWa, so we really are happy to be able to extend that to our customer base as well. I just want to give a quick test to the chat box. So if somebody could just say hello in the chat box, we'll just make sure things are running. Perfect. Thank you, Mario. Okay, so without further ado, would like to introduce Jason Higginson with APsystems, the head of marketing for North America. APsystems has been truly a great partner of ours. We've been dealing with them for a better part of a decade now, and truly great partner. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to you, Jason.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for the introduction. Appreciate that. Okay, I'm working on sharing my screen here. If you wouldn't mind giving me a just a heads up if you can't see my screen, but I should be showing the title slide now, APsystems. Can you see that?
You can see it. Yep.
Perfect. All right, we're off and away. Hi, everyone. Again, I'm Jason Higginson. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me, BayWa. Very much appreciate it, and thanks for the introduction. For those of you who are not familiar with APsystems, here's a little bit of a company introduction. We started about 14 years ago in 2010 out of Silicon Valley, and we're a global provider of module level power electronics, so both AC and DC, but we're very well known throughout the world for our microinverters. We're a global multinational corporation, so we have 4 headquarters around the world. In the US, we're based out of Austin, Texas, and our European group is in Amsterdam and Lyon, France. Latin America, we're in Guadalajara and in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And our APAC business unit is based out of Shanghai, Jiaxing, and in Sydney, Australia. So some key facts about APsystems: we're the global leader in microinverters, particularly multi-module microinverters, and that's microinverters that serve more than one PV module. So well, that's why we call it multi-platform, because we have a variety of products, including microinverters, rapid shutdown devices, and now energy storage as well. More than 5 gigawatts installed. There's well over 3 million microinverters and over 3 million rapid shutdown devices. We're connected to more than 10 million solar panels. Actually, I think it's closer to 13 million around the world. And we serve customers in over 130 countries. We're also a publicly traded company with a market cap of over $1 billion. So here's our residential solution here. As you can see, we have kind of 3 legs of the stool here. The DS3 Microinverter. We have the ECU-R, which is our energy communication unit. We have the EMA, which is our monitoring app platform. That's available both in the cloud and on your smartphone, so you can view it there or on your laptop. So let me introduce the DS3. The D is for dual input. The S is for split phase, also known as single phase in North America. And the 3 is for 3rd generation of this product. Comes in 3 flavors. We have our least powerful to our highest output here, starting with the DS3S at 640 watts output. That's because it's a dual module, it's 320 watts per channel. It's ideal for PV modules up to 400 watts. The DS3L has an output of 384 watts per channel. Good for PV modules up to 480 watts plus. The plus here is to indicate that this isn't a limit. You can absolutely pair higher wattage PV modules with this product. It really just depends on your preference for AC to DC ratio, which we will go into detail on that appropriate module pairing. The DS3 without any letter after it is our highest output product at 880 watts. We actually have higher output than this 880 watt. But these are typically the most, 3 most popular that we offer for residential solar. So it's ideal for PV modules up to 550 watts, and you typically don't see anything higher than that in residential solar. So it's a single or split phase 240, connects to 2 PV modules, and it communicates with Zigbee wireless to our gateway, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But that Zigbee communication is a lot faster than traditional PLC, which is still utilized by many companies, including Enphase, Solar Edge. But the Zigbee is up to 3 times faster. So it's faster communication. It's also in case you need to adjust firmware or make an upgrade in the firmware, you're able to do that a lot faster. In some cases, PLC, you can update a microinverter, but it'll take an entire day for a single microinverter. So just very slow data speeds. So we went wireless with it. And UL 1741 SB compliant. Rapid shutdown compliant as well, inherently in the product. So let's talk about how we arrived at this DS3 product output. So We found on most residential applications there is typically about 40 amps of available room on a service panel before they required an upgrade. So just trying to squeeze more life out of a customer's existing panel. So for us and for most microinverter providers, that meant you could put 2 strings each on a 20 amp breaker. And per NEC code and CEC code, that means 16 amps max load on a 20 amp breaker. You can only load those breakers 80%. So for us, that meant 5 of our microinverters, like our DS3L, compared to like a competing solution. Traditional microinverters from Enphase, you would have 16 of those units. And that determined what our output was per unit. And that would be the 384 watts per channel. And then that's how you know how to pair it with the appropriate PV module with, for example, a 1.25 AC to DC ratio. Again, we'll go into some more detail on that. So why do I bring that up? So whether you're us or any other microinverter provider, you have some limitations on your power output. It's volts times amps. That's how you arrive at your total wattage. The 16 amps that you're allowed to put through that 20 amp circuit, it doesn't change to 17 just because you're a different manufacturer. Everyone has to deal with that same output requirement. You multiply that by the voltage, 240, you get 3,840 watts AC per circuit. Multiply that by the 2 circuits and you get 7,680 watts. So I apologize for throwing math at you this morning, but it's an important message to relay here that whether it's us or it's Enphase, it's Hoy Miles, it's anybody on 2 circuits, each on a 20 amp breaker, we are only able to output to the customer 7,680 watts AC. So you would typically pair that with 9,600 to 10K of DC on the roof, based on your preference for that AC to DC ratio. You could put more, but you're not going to get any greater than 7680 out of those 2 strings. So I hope that makes sense. No matter how much DC on the roof, you're putting, microinverters on 220 amp breakers, you're getting 7,680 watts, regardless of which manufacturer you're using. So let's quickly talk about this PV module pairing. So typically what you'll see is a rating for a panel. Let's call it 400 watts. That's typically the STC rating. So stands for standard test condition. So that's ideal, perfect illumination, perfect angle, perfect temperature. It's laboratory test conditions. So what you'll see if you go to the CEC website and you look at the PV modules that are listed there, they'll have their STC rating, but they'll also have their PTC rating. So a little bit more realistic, and this is there's always a delta here. So we also need to talk about why even use an AC to DC ratio to begin with. So primarily because, number one, this 400 watt PV module is not going to put out 400 watts. At best, it's going to put out 370 watts. And you also have to realize that might be year 1. How much is it going to output on year 24? Because these are typically warranted for 25 years. So if you think about that over time, you need to oversize that that PV module appropriately for pairing with that inverter. So, oh, and one other point, you also want to get the increased energy production in the shoulders of the curve. So if you took a standard DC to AC ratio of 1.2 to 1.3, let's look at this our DS3S, which is a output of 320 watts. You pair that with a PV module that stays under that, because there are some who prefer not to have any clipping at all. This is a PV module that's paired with it that doesn't have any clipping. So let's take that same 300 watt PV module and overlay over the top of it a 400 watt PV module with this same inverter. And what critics of this would point out to you is this is where you're clipping's bad. So that's why we don't, oversize the PV module. But we point out that what you're losing here in the inverter clipping, you're actually gaining more in the shoulders of the curve. So, and this far outweighs what you're losing in the clipping. So again, those three reasons, the STC versus the PTC, degradation of the panel over time, and you want this increased energy production. This is why we oversize. And we recommend somewhere between that 1.2 to 1.3. I tend to recommend the higher side of that, just because the cost isn't so significantly more when you get to higher wattage PV modules. That curve in pricing tends to flatten out a little. So let's compare this with one of the traditional microinverters like Enphase. So Enphase, they're IQ8 and they're IQ8 Plus. These are residential microinverters. Their output is significantly less than the DS3L and the DS3S. So you would pair that with smaller PV modules. So those that are in the 300 to 365 range. Now we're seeing a lot of PV modules these days that are well over 400. And you can definitely oversize these. But even if you do that, you're still not going to be getting any more than this 7,680 on 2 circuits. So you line up our product, you line up their product. If you look at these numbers here, your total number of inverters, and also your total number of PV modules to get this same output. Now I like to show this visually. So to achieve that same 7,680 watts output would be 10 DS3Ls and 20 PV modules around the 480 watt range. For a competing solution, that would be 26 of these inverters if it was the IQ Plus, and 26 PV modules. But because of how they've designed their product, it maxes out at about a little over 7,500. So they don't actually achieve the full AC output. They're not fully utilizing all 16 amps on each of those circuits. So to do that, they actually use their IQ8, and they put 32 of the inverters on each of those circuits to pair with 32 PV modules. So that's a significant difference in the number of inverters. You have 3 times as many inverters, and you have 60% more PV modules on the roof. And this is, again, to produce the exact same output AC. So let's look at the panel difference. We mentioned the 32 PV modules versus 20. So these PV modules that are utilized by the Enphase solution, they would be somewhere around 365 or 300. The 20 PV modules with APsystems would be around 480 watts. So when you add up how much space that takes up, it's actually 100 square feet less. So even though they're larger panels, there's fewer of them. So it takes up less space. And also these 32 PV modules actually cost significantly more. So thanks to being able to utilize some of these larger PV modules that aren't so much more significantly expensive. It's not a linear pricing graph. It actually flattens out. So installers are able to save between $500 and $2,000 in total PV module cost. So in that comparison, again, using just Enphase as an example, APsystems is able to produce the same amount of energy with less equipment. We actually pair with those higher capacity PV modules in the 400s, even into the 500 watt range. Another thing to point out is Enphase recently came out with an IQ8 8C. It's their high capacity product. It happens to output 384 watts per channel, just like our DS3L, which launched 3 years ago. So they're finally catching up on the high capacity output product, which we've had for several years. They also recently introduced their first 3-phase inverter this year. APsystems has had a 3-phase inverter for 10 years now. So we've got a decade of experience on Enphase for producing 3-phase microinverters. And thanks to being a multi-module microinverter, the APsystems inverter installs 2 to 4 times faster. And it also enables you to stock fewer units, transport and install less equipment. And I mentioned that Zigbee versus the PLCs, the faster communication has higher reliability, especially given the presence of GFI outlets throughout the home. So what does this mean for you? This means that you're able to make more margins on jobs where you're quoting the same energy output. So yeah, jobs that if you would typically quote Enphase, you're able to quote that same price and make more margin. Alternatively, if you're up against a bid where someone else is quoting Enphase, you're able to lower your bid and you'll still make more money than if you were quoting that competing solution. So you'll save money on the inverter costs. You'll also save money on your install time, but remarkably, you'll save money on the PV modules. So this is how APsystems is creating a competitive advantage in solar. It's tremendous seeing many installers who have had challenges with their business trying to become more profitable or become profitable at all and stay competitive. And just hearing the testimonials from customers on that has just been really great to experience. So some of you are also familiar with the microinverters produced by Hoymiles. So I also wanted to throw in here a little bit of comparison with Hoymiles. So APsystems is essentially the godfather of the multi-module microinverter. We developed the second microinverter in the world, but the world's first multi-module microinverter, and I've shortened that with a little M3 acronym here. APsystems was the first multi-module microinverter in the Canada market as well. We developed the first 3-phase microinverter, as I said, about 10 years ago. We have more product in the field worldwide. And we have more generations of product developed and deployed. But most importantly, we're available through BayWa. So let's talk about what homeowners like about APsystems. They like our higher energy production on the equipment, especially pairing with some of those higher wattage PV modules. It makes them feel like they have the latest and greatest products and technology out there, which they do. The monitoring as well, they can see the energy production down to the PV module level. There's also the capability within our monitoring platform for alerts and for diagnosis. They like the safety of our products, so there's no high voltage DC. It's inherently compliant with rapid shutdown. So whether it's a first responder on the roof or a homeowner, once that AC is gone, the whole array is de-energized in milliseconds. Also, our high reliability and warranty. So we typically offer, so most get our 25-year total warranty, and that's typically done through, it's a 10-year standard product, but there's a 15-year optional extension, which most customers get. It brings that total warranty period to 25 years. And this is the third generation of our dual module product and second generation of our three-phase product. We have some great financial stability, being a public company, having a market cap that's very decently sized. We also have an untouched warranty reserve. We've been able to handle all of our warranty and RMAs just through a standard course of our business operations budget. We've never had to dip into our warranty reserve, but it's there in case there were any kind of catastrophic failures or whatever. Your customers are fully covered. We've been in business for over 14 years and will be around for years to come. So this really briefly, I wanted to touch on our EMA, which is the Energy and Monitoring Analysis interface that shows that module level monitoring, and it's got those powerful diagnostic tools. But digging into even more detail in the tools that are available to installers, you'll have a fleet view when it's really a truck roll prevention tool. So you're able to go in and determine what is happening with a particular microinverter or a particular array. You've got detailed input and output information that you can see what's coming from each panel, what's coming out from each microinverter, and you can see that over time as well. And we don't truncate any of the data. If you've got a system that goes back 10 years, you can see this minute by minute. I mean, it's technically about every 5 minutes is when it pulls the data, but you've got each of those intervals well into the future. So this helps you to determine quickly, especially if you read through some of the materials that we have online, like our troubleshooting guide. We also have a video on our YouTube channel that highlights all of this. You can easily determine whether something is just a disconnected cable or a bad panel, or if it's just a communication issue. So that way, before you're rolling a truck out to a site, you can determine what that is. And if you're not sure what that is, our team can help you figure out what that is. And we take that same functionality, both in the online interface, seeing the module level data, but also all those installer tools, and we put it in the palm of your hand with this EMA Manager app. So you're able to find this app on the iOS App Store, on the Google Play Store. But it has your fleet view. It has that module level production data over time. And this is also the tool that you would use to commission the system. One of the great things about that is there is a, on the bottom right of this login screen, there is a button that's for local access. So in case you have a tech who's on site who doesn't have the username and password for the account, they don't need it to commission the site. They just click on the local access and they're able to talk right to that ECU to be able to commission that system. So this is where the rubber meets the road. This is our layout example for installation, showing all these accessories and how they connect. So you'd have your trunk cable. Typically, this connector wouldn't be here. You would have this at the very end in case you need to have an extension for your home run. The end of this cable isn't long enough to reach your sub panel. You'd be able to add that on. We provide you with the AC connectors that are needed for that. So those are available to purchase through BayWa. But so normally this trunk cable would just be contiguous all the way down based on the number of drops that you would need. You would have an end cap on one end that would seal the cable, and it seals it so it's watertight and dust tight. The microinverters would plug into each of these terminals. We have an unlock tool, which we highly recommend. If you were to use a flat blade screwdriver, it'd be very easy for one of these clips here to accidentally break off, and then you're not seating or sealing this connection fully. And so then if you get, you have a potential hazard there of water intrusion, which could result in an issue down the line. So these unlock tools are cheap. Have a couple of them in the truck just to make sure that you never have to use a screwdriver to open these up. Also, we have a terminal cap. So if there's a window or a chimney or a dormer or something where you need to cap off one of these terminals in your design, you're going to want one of these caps. It seals that connection, again, dust tight, watertight. We also, in case you have an odd number of PV modules, we have these DC connector caps, male and female, that would go right onto these MC4 connectors here. As well as we also offer DC extension cables. And in case you like the convenience of having those available to be able to reach other PV modules. Perhaps you're using some split cell modules and you need to reach the furthest one, or you have more of a landscape layout instead of portrait. Those are very handy to have on hand. And then obviously our gateway. So let's talk about that gateway a little bit. So this is the communication device that connects wirelessly via Zigbee to each of those microinverters, collects their production data and all those little data points that I mentioned that are available for viewing on the online platform. And then it also connects either directly through an Ethernet cable or via Wi-Fi to the site owner's router, and is able to backhaul all of that information up to the cloud. So continually collects that and sends it out. It's also cellular capable. I want to make sure that I pointed that out. We also have an optional revenue grade meter that's available for this ECU. So this is how the communication works. So the PV module is obviously connected with the microinverter, the production of that energy, and also all those data points, such as the power energy that's coming from those PV modules. You're able to see that data point as well as the output of the microinverters. All that's communicated via Zigbee to the ECU. That's one of these antennas. Then you have the Ethernet cable connected to your homeowner or site owner's router. But this other antenna is available for Wi-Fi in case this wired connection is not possible. We always recommend trying to do a wired connection whenever possible, just because it's the most reliable. When you have a Wi-Fi connection, if the site owner were to change their password or their ISP or any of that, this connection is lost and has to be reconnected manually. So when you have an Ethernet cable, it assumes that whatever's connected to the router is a trusted device, so that you'll never have to worry about that internet connection. So just bear that in mind, so that you can reduce any kind of IT issues on site. And if you have any questions about the accessories that I went over, those are all available on the products section of our website. You just go down to accessories, and then you'll see all of them listed there. And at the top, you'll see the different products. You'll see the DS3 series, you'll see our ECUs, you'll see our QT2, and you can click on any one of those to view all the accessories that are available. And when you enter that accessories page, there's also some documentation there. So if you have any AHJs that have questions about the rating on a particular cable or any of these products, all of that information is available on those drawings. So you'd actually be able to pull that up there on the website. I also quickly wanted to cover our just a few tidbits on our commercial solution, the QT2. So this is our commercial microinverter, and it serves 4 PV modules, just like the DS3. There's an ECU that you can connect with it, and the production is available in the same app as the DS3, our EMA platform. So the Q in the QT2 is for quad, or for 4 inputs. The T stands for 3-phase, and this is the 2nd generation of our 3-phase product. You might remember the previous iteration, which was the YC1000. This is actually twice as powerful and more reliable than that product. So 2 different variants on this, the 208 volts and 480 volt. And the 208 volt is ideal to pair with PV modules that are 550, I'd say 550 to 600, and the same with the 480 watt, 565 to 600. And this is using an AC to DC ratio of about 1.25. So if you use a 1.3, then that would push that over the 600 watt range, depending on your preference. So this is actually a true 3-phase inverter. It has 5 lines in the cable, 5 wires, line 1, 2, 3, neutral and ground. Connects to 4 PV modules, phase balance, phase monitored, also 1741 SB, and rapid shutdown compliant. So the bigger question, why microinverters in C&I applications? When we first introduced this product, we had questions from many installers regarding whether or not it made sense to have microinverters, which were traditionally a residential product. They were also lower powered, they were more expensive, and at the time, the microinverters that they had seen were single phase. And if they wanted to use them in commercial, they would have to actually wire them into to 3 phases. So we've tried to address each and every one of those points of concern, and it's been a bit of a paradigm shift, showing the industry how microinverters are now more cost competitive than ever, especially when you compare them to a string inverter plus rapid shutdown for rooftop solar, because there's no additional rapid shutdown equipment needed with our product. You're able to pair today's microinverters with high capacity PV modules. So it's not a low powered residential product, it's a high powered, cost effective 3-phase commercial product. So the installation is 75% faster than conventional microinverters. It's also 75% faster than string plus rapid shutdown or string plus optimizers, because keep in mind, with rapid shutdown devices and with optimizers, you're putting one of those devices onto each PV module. So when you have one microinverter to pair with every 4 PV modules, that's definitely a faster installation, but also it's significantly fewer potential points of failure throughout your array. And having plug and play 3-phase, that's also a nice feature. So I also wanted to do a shout out for our AP storage solution. This is fairly newly introduced. We launched it in the fall of last year at the big RE Plus show. Pairs with our DS3 Microinverter. It's the ELS 5K. This is our battery charger, battery inverter. It's not a hybrid. It can operate independently, doesn't have to pair with our DS3. It could be somebody else on the roof. It's an AC coupled solution, and it can pair with our AP battery, or it can pair with any one of a number of other battery solutions out there available in the market. So what we saw with most competing solutions is their battery and their battery inverter were a specific part of their product ecosystem. You had one choice in battery if you wanted to go with that. So one of the things that APsystems wanted to bring to the table is more choice and more flexibility. So we're not a battery manufacturer. We found a terrific battery out there that we partnered with and private labeled. So if you do want to have a branded solution, then we have one available. It's got our logo on it, so that way you can have that contiguous branding. But if you have a preference for someone like a home grid stacked solution or Fortress or a number of others that we have listed on our website, you just go to our website and look at our documentation. There is a compatibility list available there of 20 or more different industry leading batteries that our product is compatible with. And we're continually adding to that list over time. So we're really trying to be battery agnostic. We want our battery inverter to be able to charge and discharge from anyone's battery. So as long as it's low voltage, so it's somewhere between 40 and 60 volts. So your kind of standard 48 volt battery. So as long as it fits within those requirements, our product should be able to pair with it. If it's in the compatibility list, that's ideal. But if not, then we can always test it. We just need to test the communication and the compatibility there. And once we do that, then we can add that to the list. So if you have a preference in battery, make sure that you let us know. So as I mentioned, yeah, battery input voltage 40 to 60 volts. And the maximum continuous output power is 5,000 volt amps, which is a higher powered battery inverter than both of the end-phase models that are available right now, including the 5P. And the peak output power is 7,500 volt amps, also a higher peak output. So if you want to use this in an off-grid formation, then you'll need to have a transformer. So you would use, if you have just one of our ELS 5K battery inverters, or we call it a PCS, then you would pair that with a single 5K transformer. If you have two of them, which you can string two of these inverters together, you would use a 10K transformer with that. But that's only for that off-grid mode. If your customers are not interested in having that still function in an off-grid application, then you don't need to worry about a transformer. And this is the AP battery. So I mentioned that two of the ELS devices could be paired together. So two 5Ks for 10K, 10 kilowatts of battery inversion capability. And we recommend pairing that with about 2x on the battery side. So that would be about 20 kilowatts for that 10K. If you're just using one of the ELS 5Ks, then you would pair that with about 10 kilowatt hours of batteries, or two of these units. So that 1-to-2 ratio, one ELS, two batteries, or two ELS, four batteries. With this solution, you can actually pair up to 4 of these units, but that's only with our AP battery. With other available batteries like Home Grid, you're going to have to check with them on what the ideal pairing is, but usually it's that 2-to-1 ratio, which is what we recommend. And then also our whole solution is UL 9540 certified, both the battery and the ELS together. So our AP storage solution has a couple modes of operation. I'm just going to quickly go over these, and then we'll conclude the webinar. But that backup mode that I mentioned, the priority here is to keep the battery full as possible. And these modes are switchable. So if you're in one mode, but you find out a storm is coming, or an electrical storm or a high wind or something, and you can switch your AP storage solution to backup mode so that you are prepared for an outage. This solution only works if there's APsystems on the roof. So all the other modes work regardless of who's on your roof, who's on the homeowner's solar solution. But if they want to utilize the backup mode, essentially, when the grid goes down, APsystems, our solution, our inverters on the roof can actually run the equipment, run the critical loads while the sun is shining. And we can keep those critical loads up until such time as either the sun goes down and then you're pulling from battery. And that's why that priority is to try to keep that battery as full as possible. But if you don't have APsystems on the roof, then that being able to keep the primary critical loads up from solar directly, that option is not available. So mode number 2 is self-consumption. Your goal here is to minimize use of the grid as much as possible. And kind of akin to that is mode number 3, which is what we we have several different names for it depending on the region, but quite often you'll hear time of use. So that specific time where the utility charges a premium for energy, mode number 3 is really trying to avoid that and utilize stored energy during that time. And then afterward, it can utilize either solar or the grid when the cost is low. So an example of that is during that that time when the electricity is cheapest, like at night, then now you're able to charge up your battery because you're not paying a premium to keep that that battery topped off. So some APsystems takeaways. I mentioned that we can generate the same or more power, less equipment. We reduce costs on equivalent system size. We help you create that competitive advantage. Recommend you check out the QT2 for 3-phase. Give our AP storage solution a try. It's also very cost competitive. And that's what I have for you today. So
we do have a couple of questions, Jason. Thank you very much for that. We have one person asking, wondering if you could go over the AC cable management on the roof. Any suggestions or best practices?
Yeah, the AC cable management is typically very, very simple because when we sell these cables, they come on reels and they are pre-terminated, so each of the terminals is already there. So if you're doing one string of DS3Ls, for example, you would ask for 5 terminals from your 5 drops from your distributor, and they would cut that off for you, and you would lay that out on the rail, and you typically zip tie it. But you definitely want to make sure you have that cap for the one end, and that you have some options either by adding your own cable or buying some extension cable from your distributor to make sure that you can get down to that sub panel. Again, we have the connectors available for you to do that if you need to add more room on the end. In addition to that, those DC extension cables, you got to have some of those in the truck in case for some reason some of the panels don't always have long enough leads on them. I know BayWa specifically, they only get the ones with the longer leads, but if for some reason you have modules with shorter leads, then you're going to want one of those extension cables.
And then follow up to that, specifically mounting to the rail, zip tie only, or are there clips?
There's typically both. You can check with your actually your racking manufacturer for what they would recommend. They all have accessories for cable management. So really it comes down to installer preference. Like they'll have a variety of options and you can test them out, choose what you like best. But they've all encountered our product. They should all have solutions that pair well with our product. But we've seen many just use zip ties and be fine and happy with that. Just make sure if you do those connections, number one, no connector connections that are exposed to sun or to water. So you want those connections to be fully hidden underneath the panel. You don't want them to be on an edge or exposed in any way to direct sunlight or direct rain. And number two, the same with those zip ties. They over time, zip ties, they're plastic. They will get they can get brittle and break over time, especially with exposure to sun. So make sure that those are well hidden underneath the panel as well.
And 2 other questions here. How can these microinverters be connected in an off-grid system?
So yeah, those actually would connect through our PCS, our ELS. So the ELS would be the brains behind making sure that in an off-grid solution, when there's when the grid goes down, the ELS becomes the quarterback of taking the energy that's being produced on the roof, assuming it's daytime and there's solar energy being produced, and it would feed that to the critical loads. And then once that power is insufficient to do that, then it would either supplement with the battery or it would just transfer to being solely supported by the battery.
Great.
But again, in that solution, it has to be us on the roof.
And then is the ALS 5K certified for Canada?
I believe so. It has the CSA testing completed and certified on that product. So, but I'm not sure if that's been deployed yet there. I have to verify that, but we are newly introducing that to the market. So, but we'll verify that with the team, and we'll have BayWa do an announcement if it's fully certified and available for the Canada market. We'll make sure that there's an announcement that goes out that you can absolutely do that.
Sure. And any last questions out there, folks? Not seeing anything else. So I think if you have any further questions, please just reach out to one of your BayWa reps. We'd be more than happy to help you out. As discussed, this was recorded, so this will be in the April newsletter. It'll also be on our YouTube channel. Highly recommend, if you haven't signed up to our web shop yet, please sign up to the web shop. You can find specs, pricing, inventory, install manual, see all your orders. It's really a powerful tool to help us be an extension of your purchasing team. And once again, thank you very much, Jason. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Really appreciate it. Hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.